Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and this today's edition for Monday, the 24th of October, comes to you from London. And we start, as always, by looking at currencies. Dollar had a very strong couple of weeks, and last week we just saw a little bit of flattening off there, but the long-term picture is still very bullish for the US dollar. Uh, we saw this big rise in 2014, and it looks like we could be getting set up for another big rise like that. That was about a 20% increase. We see here not many upside targets to play for, about 5% on this upside target in the short term, which would activate these new very big upside targets. So dollar really has great long-term potential if we look at the charts, but it's bullish on all time frames at the moment. So a little bit of a pullback in the very short term, but what we are seeing here is the dollar increasing. If we take a look at the euro, much the same picture. Of course, the euro in reverse, so the euro is bearish on the long term, bearish on the medium term, and bearish on the short term. Just a little bit of a recovery going on this morning, but all these downside targets activated. This one here now on the short term chart is activated with Friday's move below, so this is now bearish for the euro. So that's really quite key. So keep an eye on the 1 minute charts there as well. If we take a look at sterling, sterling of course has been the big story of late, and we are just still bearish below the cloud, trying to put in a little bit of recovery. We've got up and downside targets here, 119.47 and 126.35. Neither of these activated, so a move below there would activate the downside, and you'd have to favor the downside at the moment given the picture that we have on the charts here. If we take a look at the S&P 500 index, managed to hold the 2140 level on Friday, so we are still in bullish territory here, just creeping through on the daily, on the 60-minute chart. So short-term picture improving. Upside target to 2196 has been given and activated. That would break us out of this sideways range, but only just. So at the moment, really, the picture is that it's going back to the top of the range. We take a look at Nasdaq. Nasdaq is through on the chart, lead indicator really for US markets, and this Nasdaq 100 through 2.5% upside. So we're starting to see a little bit better picture on the markets here. And if we look at the futures this morning in London, we are seeing the futures opening up about 0.5%. So US markets looking pretty strong this week. A nice little breakout there on the 60-minute chart. So looking quite good. FTSE holding this 7,000 level now a little bit more convincingly. We're through here on the 60-minute chart. We've got upside targets as well. So FTSE is now it's looking bearish, bullish on all time frames. So that's quite key. The FTSE 250 just starting to wander through, not quite looking as bullish as the FTSE 100, which is getting that currency benefit. I look at the DAX. DAX this week, again, strong move this morning. We're seeing this break of the DAX just coming through on the weekly here now, so a long-term trend change undergoing itself as well, and good upside. So the market's generally looking quite good. Nikkei bullish on these short and medium-term time frames, as much as 7-8% upside potential on these targets, so that's quite key. Shanghai had a very good move last night, bullish as well. Still bearish in the long term, of course, but we are seeing good upside here. If we look at the Sensex, that's also turned bullish. So markets generally 3% upside short-term chart there. Markets generally looking good. The Aussie market didn't do as well overnight, but we are seeing that it has a little bit of short-term potential here, but the longer term charts are also trying to make this transition, so quite key. Brent not managing to hold above this 52.50 level. That's the real sort of resistance level at the moment. We've been above it briefly, but we just can't seem to hold it. We're back below on the 60-minute chart, but recovering. We do have a 2% upside target. So at the moment, flatlining, and we're still not quite through on the weekly chart. And if we look at WTI, much the same picture, of course, just coming through here on the weekly, but not through yet. Look at US nat gas back below $3. So we had quite a big sell-off in the last few days of last week, um, holding, and that's really resistance on the lagging line on the weekly chart. So long term, still not quite bullish, and we are just seeing a bit of a sell-off. But that's a pullback in the trend. So, but we are back below this $3 level, so that's quite a surprise. We had a downside target of 297. That's really roughly where we went to, but we've now got upside targets to play for. So that's quite key. Looking at most softs, was a little bit of movement this morning. Soybeans actually doing quite well. Got a short-term trend here, bearish on the medium term, but just really pulling back to the cloud on the weekly chart. So soybeans, one of the better-looking soft charts at the moment. If we look at something like wheat, we see here that we're bearish on all time frames here, so still that's the picture for a lot of softs. Taking a look at gold, we see here that we are just coming back into this bullish territory, pulling back to the cloud here. So a bit of a pullback, but the downside targets in the short term not activated. Some new short-term upside targets, 1285, 1296. So gold looking better. And if we look at silver, a similar picture here. Not quite through yet on the having pulled back in the last few days last week, just a little bit short-term bearish, but we've got these upside targets activated. The downside target given and met, so silver looking still pretty good. If we look at copper, one chart that's pretty well bearish on all time frames, new downside target 203. So that's 3% downside on the copper future. If we take a quick look at US bond rates, this is the 10-year, just falling away slightly here at the moment, so we are just seeing a little bit of a deterioration. Bellwethers, Apple through on the weekly. That's the big story on Apple. We're into a new long-term uptrend. The medium-term trend is up, and we are just flattening a little bit on the short term. Downside potential of about 2%, but we've got these counter trend targets. So Apple looking much healthier than it has been. Google had a real sort of spurt in the last few weeks. We see here a very bullish chart, medium term, long term, and medium term, and the short term is just flattening a little bit. Still upside potential there. Amazon has been pulling back a little bit after a great run in recent weeks, and Facebook managed to get above that 130 level, 132, so making new highs on Facebook. Upside targets still looking pretty bullish all around. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.